Well, we'll say good day to all my friends and family, whether you are near or far. This is Raymond Settles, and I'm here with your motivational moment. The motivational moment starts as follows. The secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks and starting on the first one. Now, these words are attributed to the writer Samuel Langhorne Clemens. You may know him by his more famous pen name, Mark Twain. Mark Twain was an American writer, humorist, entrepreneur, publisher, and lecturer. He is considered as the greatest humorist the United States has ever produced. And it was author William Faulkner who called him the father of American literature. Twain's literary works include such classics as The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and its sequel, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is often called the Great American Novel. So what Mr. Twain is saying is this. It says, get started on the complex and complicated task first by getting started, period. There has to be some motion and action put into play. The physics theory is that a body at rest tends to stay at rest. And what happens is we can be so frozen in fear and then suffer from paralysis by analysis, where we look at the enormity of a task, and as we analyze all that must be done to complete that task, we get entrapped in the lack of motion by looking at everything as being so large that it can't be done. But this is what Twain said. He says, start by looking at that whole task and then break it down into more tolerable, smaller pieces. Instead of looking at just one large mission to be completed, he says break it down into various steps that makes up the entire task into smaller pieces, let's say 5 to 7 steps. If you do it that way, when you tackle and complete each of those smaller missions, progress gets made, but it gets made on a more manageable level. It's kind of like a boxer, or it's kind of like a marathon runner. Rather than a boxer just simply preparing for a 12-round fight, he prepares to fight those 12 rounds by preparing to fight 12,000 rounds. Or a marathon runner doesn't prepare to run a 26-mile marathon over the course of one day. A marathon runner puts out a training program, most done by 12 or 20 weeks, some 3 to 5 months in preparation of that one race. Doing it that way allows them to build up their readiness over time. They can build up their strength, their stamina, and their speed as they prepare for that single race. It's not done immediately. It's not done so quickly. It's done over time. Progress done that way can be measured and made in tolerable levels of achievable goals, not just trying to tackle the one large mountain in one setting. It calls to mind the concept of what was said long ago. How does one go about to eat a whale? You do it one bite at a time. It is impossible to handle some of the challenges we face all in one setting. So we have to use the inherent wisdom that we have to break down that large item into a series of smaller, more digestible portions. Now, in that same vein, I am reminded of the words of Isaiah the prophet, who in his prophetic book in the 28th chapter in the 10th verse said, for precept must be upon precept. Again, precept upon precept. Line upon line, line upon line. Here a little and there a little. As for our instruction in the things of God, it's necessary to understand that the same precept, and sometimes even the same line, has to be repeated often to us. That way we can better digest it and better understand it. And sometimes we have to be comfortable and confident that our work in life is going to be bigger than what we can handle. And then if we're honest, we'll see that sometimes the biggest goals that we have are much bigger than what we are capable of accomplishing in one simple setting. You don't get a PhD over the course of a one-year program. It takes years, and you have to have other degrees already in place in order for you to even begin that project. When you look at these type of tasks, they're best understood and they're best undertaken in fractional parts and then build upon them until the whole has been constructed. You have to start with the foundation of a building before you can put the roof on it. It's the details that make the difference. Some like to say that the devil is in the details, but I like to say that the details make the difference. Now, I know that flies in the face of today's society where everything is microwavable. We can simply press a button and the food is ready in a minute. We can press a button and we get the information almost instantaneously. We can press a button and we're already halfway into a movie. Unfortunately, many tasks in life are not like that. They're not completed in so quick and so brief a fashion. Details and the concept of detail are critical to mastery of anything. If you look at some of the great movies in your life that you've seen, you notice that there's always some small understated moment in some great scene that you may not notice the first time you saw it, but you noticed it the third time you saw it. Or you may hear a song days, weeks, years on end, and then all of a sudden you notice one small part to it that you didn't notice before. That's because they took the time to put detail and to add layers to what they're doing. It's what makes a craftsman a great craftsman. Whether that person is in music, composition, or rhyme, it doesn't matter. Details and the concept of detail is what makes the difference. And what Isaiah is saying is that persistent reflecting, reminding, and rehearsing will cause us to be able to fully grasp some concepts. I mean, think about it this way. Could you learn and master quantitative physics without continued and continuous efforts and practice? Obviously not. What Mark Twain gives us and what Isaiah gives us really are two sides of the same coin if we want to learn how to accomplish big things in life. First, Mark Twain says this. He says, get going, get started. He says, break down that big picture into a series of smaller pictures that get compiled like a mosaic or like a large voluminous work, like the encyclopedias used to be. But then second, you take the words of Isaiah and understand that as you're working on these smaller pictures, you learn to be persistent in mastering the small details, because when you factor in the small details, they help to make up the small pictures, which makes up the big picture. So what he's saying is a little effort now goes a long way later. When you look at someone who was a champion bodybuilder and they may have started off as the quintessential 90-pound weakling, they didn't become a champion bodybuilder overnight. It took time. It took effort. It took consistency of work in order to get from that 90-pound weakling to that world champion bodybuilder. The neophyte didn't become a master over the course of one day. The student does not become the teacher in short order. The rookie doesn't become a grizzled veteran in the blink of an eye. All of these are part of a process that takes time. Here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. Some works take great effort in order to become what they're eventually going to become. Simply stated, you have to work on building up in order to build out. You have to get started first and foremost. It's not going to happen because you wish it would. It's not going to happen because you simply want it to. It's going to happen because you actually get into motion. You actually get started. You've got to start moving. You got to start towards your goals. But you also have to master the basics. If you get started, and if you get focused on mastering the basics, you will surely accomplish all that you set your heart and mind to do. You're able to do it. You're capable. You just have to put the work and add the steps in to make it happen. And it can be yours. This is Raymond Settles. This has been your motivational moment. I want you to know, I need you to go out and seize the day. It's right within your grasp. You can handle it. You're more than able to do it. Have a wonderful day.